5 minutes. That's how long Tashianna Blake spent begging for her life as her daughters watched their father raise his gun again, and again, and again. 11 shots total. The final one? A point-blank execution to her forehead. The shocking audio from their doorbell camera captured every moment. A mother's desperate pleas, a father's cold commands to apologize, and the terrified whimpers of two little girls who would never see their mommy again. What could drive a man, a soldier sworn to protect, to commit such a horrific act in front of his own children? And why did a Ring doorbell camera, meant to keep families safe from outside threats, end up documenting the destruction of one from within? Hello, my viewers. This is Davis, and you're watching Crime Realities. I welcome you to True Crime Stories 24/7. And most importantly, I want to thank you for joining me again on today's episode. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video to help our channel grow. Today, we will uncover the devastating truth behind a tragedy that shook Colorado Springs. A story that forces us to confront the reality that sometimes the greatest dangers aren't strangers lurking in the shadows, but the people we trust most. Before we begin, I need you to understand. This isn't just another true crime story. This is a wake-up call. As you watch, pay attention to the warning signs that appeared months, even years before that fatal night. Because someone in your life, maybe even you, might need to recognize these same signs before it's too late. The night of February 20th, 2021, in the Blake household. Tashianna, a 30-year-old realtor and devoted mother of two, was upstairs in their townhouse. Her daughters, just 5 and 7 years old, were tucked away in their bedroom. And Dermot Blake, their father, a respected Fort Carson soldier, was downstairs. No one driving past their home that evening could have guessed that in just a few hours, this seemingly normal family scene would turn into a nightmare that would haunt their quiet Colorado Springs neighborhood forever. What makes this story particularly disheartening isn't just what happened. It's how easily it could have been prevented, because Tashianna Blake didn't die from a single moment of rage. She died from a pattern of escalating violence that had been building for years. A pattern that left clues. A pattern that people saw. A pattern that, if recognized sooner, might have saved her life and prevented her children from witnessing the death of their mother. As we go through this story, I want you to pay maximum attention so you can recognize these signs if you see them in your own life, or in the life of someone you love. Because by the time you finish watching this video, you'll understand exactly what to look for, and more importantly, what to do about it. This case was tried in El Paso County, Colorado, where a jury found Dermot Blake guilty of first-degree murder. The evidence I'm about to share with you comes directly from court documents, police reports, and witness testimonies. Every detail, as horrific as it may seem, is true. Let's go back to 2015 when Tashianna and Dermot's story began. Back when their love story still held promise, before it turned into a cautionary tale that would leave two little girls without a mother, two families shattered, and a community wondering how they missed the signs. Just minutes after midnight, Dermot Blake made a call to 911. "I just shot my wife. She was a terrible person." But what the dispatcher didn't know was that those words came after 5 minutes of pure terror. 5 minutes that had just changed two young lives forever. The evidence was all there, captured by the family's doorbell camera. A modern security device that would become a silent witness to a mother's final moments. But let me take you inside that townhouse, where two little girls just 5 and 7 years old were about to experience something no child should ever have to witness. They were in their bedroom when the first shot rang out. The oldest daughter would later tell investigators that she heard her mother's voice calling out from the hallway. What happened next would haunt these children for the rest of their lives. They stepped out of their room to find their mother, Tashianna, already covered in blood. She was on her knees, looking up at their father, repeatedly saying, "I'm sorry," as he stood over her with a gun. But sorry wasn't enough. Nothing would be enough that night. Tashianna Blake was more than just another statistic. At 30 years old, she was making a name for herself as a promising realtor in Colorado Springs. Her social media was filled with proud posts about her children. Just months before her death, she had written, "I'll do anything for my kids. My kids are my life." She had no idea how prophetic those words would become. The man holding the gun, Dermot Blake, wasn't a stranger who had broken in. He wasn't some unknown threat they could have protected themselves against. He was a Fort Carson soldier, trained to protect others. He was their father, their protector. Or at least he was supposed to be. As we unravel this story together, you'll see how a seemingly normal family life unraveled into unthinkable violence. You'll learn about the red flags that appeared years before, like the domestic disturbance call in 2019 that ended with no charges, despite someone in the background telling police that Dermot had hit Tashianna. You'll understand how a divorce filing that same year was withdrawn, leading Tashianna back into a home that would eventually become her tomb. But most importantly, you'll learn why this story matters to you. Because right now, in homes across the country, other Tashiannas are living in fear, seeing the same warning signs, hoping things will get better. Some of them might be watching this video. Some of them might be your neighbors, your friends, or your family members. Or maybe you're seeing these signs in your own life. The shots that killed Tashianna Blake didn't come out of nowhere. They were the final act in a pattern of escalating violence that had warning signs all along the way. By the time we're done here, you'll know exactly what those signs look like. And maybe, just maybe, that knowledge will help save someone else's life. So stay with me as we piece together the events that led to that February night. A night that would end with 11 gunshots, a mother's death, 2 traumatized children, and a father who would trade his military uniform for a prison jumpsuit. Because sometimes the most important lessons come from the hardest stories to tell. In 2015, when Tashianna and Dermot Blake first crossed paths, she was a young woman with big dreams, starting her journey in real estate. He was a soldier at Fort Carson, carrying himself with the discipline and pride of a military man. Their wedding photos showed smiling faces, hope, and the promise of a beautiful future together. No one in those photos could have imagined how tragically their story would end. The first few years seemed picture perfect. They welcomed 2 daughters, moved into a townhouse in southeast Colorado Springs, and appeared to be living the American dream. Tashianna's real estate career was taking off. On social media, she painted the picture of a happy family, sharing photos of family outings, her children's milestones, and proud moments with her husband. But behind those carefully curated images, cracks were beginning to show. By July 2019, something had changed. The couple filed for divorce, a cry for help that should have been heard louder. That same day, police were called to their home for a domestic disturbance. When officers arrived, both Tashianna and Dermot claimed it was just a verbal argument. But someone in the background, someone who saw what was really happening, told the officers that Dermot had hit his wife. The officers left without filing charges. It was a crucial moment, a missed opportunity that would haunt everyone involved. Despite what Tashianna and Dermot told the police that day, violence had already taken root in their home. Like so many victims of domestic abuse, Tashianna might have been too scared, too hopeful, or too trapped to tell the truth. Based on many incidents like this, many women act similarly, especially to keep their children safe. They keep hoping for the best, hoping things will get better, just to ensure their kids are safe and happy. Kudos to all mothers out there. By October of that same year, the divorce case was dismissed. They tried to make it work, like so many couples do. Tashianna went back, perhaps believing things would be different. Perhaps believing that her children needed their father. Perhaps believing that the man she married was still in there somewhere. The next year and a half would see Tashianna flourishing in her career, even as her home life was crumbling. She poured herself into being a mother, protecting her girls from the growing tension at home. Her last social media posts were all about her children, her pride, her joy, her reason for living. "I'll do anything for my kids," she wrote. "My kids are my life." She had no way of knowing that her daughters would soon witness her final moments. The signs were there, growing clearer and more urgent with each passing month. The control, the tension, the fear. But like a pot slowly coming to a boil, the changes were gradual enough that many missed them. Friends would later say they noticed changes in Tashianna's behavior, but didn't know how to help. Family members saw worrying signs, but didn't know how serious they were. As we move closer to that fatal February night, remember, this isn't just about looking back and seeing what was missed. It's about learning to recognize these signs in real time. Because somewhere, right now, another family is showing these same signs. Another woman is making excuses for bruises. Another man is telling himself he can control his anger next time. Another set of children is learning to walk on eggshells in their own home. The morning of February 20th, 2021, dawned like any other. Tashianna went about her day, taking care of her girls, perhaps hoping things would get better. She couldn't have known that in less than 24 hours, her doorbell camera would record her final breaths, her daughters would become witnesses to unimaginable horror, and her husband would make that cold, emotionless call to 911. As night fell on February 20th, tension filled the Blake household. Something was different about Dermot that evening. The daughters would later tell investigators that their father had been drinking, a detail that his defense would try to use to explain away what happened next. But alcohol doesn't create monsters. It only unmasks them. Around midnight, the nightmare began. The doorbell camera captured the first gunshot, a sound that shattered the quiet neighborhood and changed everything. Inside, the two little girls huddled in their bedroom, hearing their mother's voice call out to them from the hallway. What kind of terror must have gripped them as they stepped out of their room? What goes through a child's mind when they see their mother on her knees, blood already staining her clothes? The doorbell camera kept recording. For 5 long minutes, 5 minutes that felt like an eternity, it captured every sound. Dermot's voice, demanding that Tashianna apologize. Her voice trembling and desperate, saying, "I'm sorry," over and over. The sounds of their daughter's fear. And the gunshots. One after another after another. 11 times Dermot pulled the trigger. 11 conscious choices to end the life of his children's mother. The forensic pathologist would later testify about each wound, but it was the final shot that revealed the true horror of that night. With Tashianna already badly wounded, Dermot stepped closer. The 7-year-old daughter told police she watched as her father pressed the gun just inches from her mother's forehead. One last shot. One last act of ultimate control. Then silence. The kind of silence that follows something that can never be undone. For almost an hour, the townhouse remained quiet. The girls, traumatized and terrified, remained with their dying mother and the man who had just destroyed their world. Finally, at 1 a.m., Dermot Blake made that horrifying call to 911. His words were cold, detached. "I just shot my wife. She was a terrible person. No remorse, no emotion, just a statement of fact, as if he were reporting a broken appliance." When police arrived, they found a scene that would haunt even veteran officers. Tashianna lay in the upstairs hallway, her body showing the evidence of all 11 shots. Dermot was covered in blood but surprisingly calm. As they put the handcuffs on him, his daughters, the same little girls who had just watched him execute their mother, were taken away to safety. But what is safety when your own father has shattered your sense of security forever? How do you trust again after watching the person who was supposed to protect you become the monster you feared? These questions would follow these young girls for the rest of their lives, a burden no child should have to bear. In the days that followed, the community struggled to understand. How could a soldier, someone trained to protect, commit such a brutal act? How could a father make his children witness such horror? The answers, as we're about to discover, lay in a pattern of behavior that had been building for years. As investigators dug deeper into the Blake family history, a disturbing pattern was noticed. That 2019 domestic disturbance call wasn't just an isolated incident. It was a warning sign. When someone in the background told police Dermot had hit Tashianna, they were trying to expose a truth that had been hidden behind closed doors. But like so many domestic violence cases, the truth stayed buried until it was too late. The trial began in November 2022. For 10 days, the courtroom would become a theater of heartbreak as the full story unfolded. Dermot's defense attorney never denied that his client had pulled the trigger. Instead, he tried to paint it as an alcohol-fueled, impulsive act. "This was a hasty and impulsive drunken reaction to something," he told the jury. But the evidence told a different story. The prosecution had that doorbell camera footage. 5 minutes of terror that proved this was no impulsive act. 5 minutes where Dermot Blake had time to think, time to stop, time to choose a different path. Instead, he chose to keep pulling the trigger again and again as his wife begged for her life and his children watched in horror. But it was the testimony of his own daughter that would shake the courtroom to its core. During the sentencing, the 6-year-old child looked at Judge Samuel Evig and asked a question that laid bare the senseless tragedy of it all. Why did he kill my mom? It's a question that even now nobody can truly answer. Not the prosecutors who proved it was premeditated murder. Not the defense attorneys who tried to blame it on alcohol. Not even Dermot Blake himself, who declined to speak when the judge gave him one last chance to explain his actions. The jury took 4 hours to reach their verdict. Guilty of first-degree murder. Guilty of child abuse. The sentence was mandatory, life in prison. But as Marie Johnson, Tashianna's stepmother, told the court, he didn't just take her life. He took the lives of those 2 little girls. Those girls would never be the same children who went to bed on February 19, 2021. Their innocence died alongside their mother in that upstairs hallway. Kelsey Johnson, Tashianna's sister, put it perfectly when she said, he couldn't handle that she was a bright fire that he couldn't put out. Dermot Blake had tried to control that fire through fear and violence. When he couldn't, he extinguished it completely, leaving behind nothing but ashes and trauma. The story of Tashianna Blake is more than just another domestic violence statistic. It's indeed a wake-up call. Right now, in homes across America and other parts of the world, other bright fires are being slowly smothered. Other children are learning to fear their protectors. Other women are saying, "I'm sorry," to keep the peace, never knowing if one day those words won't be enough. So, what can we learn from Tashianna's story? What are the warning signs that might save someone else's life? First, understand that domestic violence rarely begins with physical abuse. It starts with control, the kind Dermot had over Tashianna. When she tried to break free in 2019 by filing for divorce, he managed to pull her back in. That's often how it works. The cycle of abuse followed by promises of change. Look at the signs that were there. The domestic disturbance call that was dismissed as just a verbal argument. The witness who tried to tell police the truth about the physical abuse. The withdrawn divorce filing. These weren't just random events. They were red flags, waving furiously in the wind, begging to be noticed. Think about those 2 little girls. They went from having a mother who proudly posted about them on social media, who said, "My kids are my life," to watching that same life being taken away in the most brutal fashion imaginable. The trauma they experienced that night will require years of therapy, support, and healing. As Judge Evig noted during sentencing, these children showed incredible bravery in speaking up, but they should never have had to be brave in that way. Let me be clear about something. Dermot Blake's actions weren't caused by alcohol. They weren't caused by a momentary lapse in judgment. They were the result of a pattern of escalating violence that finally exploded into 11 gunshots on a February night. The doorbell camera didn't just record a murder, it recorded the final chapter of a story that had been writing itself for years. If you're watching this and recognizing similar patterns in your own life or in the life of someone you know, please understand, it's not too late to change the ending of your story. People are waiting to help. There are shelters, counselors, and support networks ready to assist. You don't have to wait until it's too late. Remember Tashianna's words, "I'll do anything for my kids." She probably stayed in that relationship thinking it was best for her children. But now those same children are growing up without their mother, carrying the weight of having witnessed her murder. Sometimes leaving isn't just about saving yourself. It's about saving your children too. To those who might be in a position to help someone in an abusive situation, don't be silent. That person in the background during the 2019 police visit? They tried to tell the truth about Dermot hitting Tashianna. Though their warning wasn't heeded then, they at least tried. Sometimes being that voice, that person willing to speak up, might be exactly what someone needs to find the strength to leave. The story of Tashianna Blake ended in tragedy. But maybe, just maybe, by sharing her story, we can help write a different ending for someone else. Because somewhere out there, another Tashianna is wondering if she should leave. Another set of children is growing up in fear. Another family is hovering on the brink of tragedy. If you're watching this and something about Tashianna's story feels familiar, whether in your own life or someone you know, please, for the sake of yourself and your kids, if you have any, don't wait. Don't tell yourself it will get better on its own. Don't convince yourself it was just one bad night, one mistake, or one moment of anger. Tashianna's story shows us how quickly one more chance can turn into no more chances. I'm not saying you should leave your home at every sign of misunderstanding, but every act of violence must be addressed, not ignored. I hope you understand this message. Keeping your partner's violent actions against you a secret is like hiding a time bomb under your clothes. Eventually, it will explode. And who will the victim be then? Be wise enough to act while there's still a chance to fix things. For those of you watching this video with children of your own, think about Tashianna's daughters. Think about what they saw that night. Think about the question that a 6-year-old girl asked in court. Why did he kill my mom? No child should ever have to ask that question. No child should ever have to watch their world shatter in an upstairs hallway. Like I always say on every episode of Crime Realities, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is available 24/7. They have people ready to listen, ready to help, and ready to guide you towards safety. You don't have to give your name. You don't have to make any decisions right away. You just need to take that first step and make the call. To everyone else watching, be aware, be alert, be that person who speaks up when you see something wrong. Maybe if more people had spoken up for Tashianna, if more people had recognized the danger she was in, she might still be alive today. She might still be selling houses in Colorado Springs, still posting proud messages about her children, still being that bright fire her sister described. Before we end this video, I want to speak directly to anyone who might be in danger right now. Your life has value. Your safety matters. Your children need you alive and well. Tashianna's last recorded words were, "I'm sorry, but you have nothing to be sorry for. The abuse is not your fault. You deserve better. There is help available and there are people ready to support you." If this story has educated you at all, please share it. Not for views or likes, but because someone in your circle might need to hear it. Someone might recognize their own situation in Tashianna's story. Someone might realize they need to get out before it's too late. I'm Davis, and this has been Crime Realities. Remember, the biggest tragedy isn't just that Tashianna Blake died, it's that her death could have been prevented. Don't let another Tashianna become another statistic. Don't let another child have to ask why daddy killed mommy. Speak up, reach out, save a life. Until I come your way again, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. God bless you.